In the quiet mountains of South Korea, police officer Jong-gu begins his day with an unsettling call. Early in the morning, he is dispatched to investigate a gruesome murder case. Upon arriving at the scene, he finds a shocking sight. The alleged murderer, bloodied and wounded, sits handcuffed outside the house, his body covered in strange rashes. Inside the home, Jong-gu discovers two brutally murdered victims. A fellow officer explains that one of the bodies was killed elsewhere and dragged to the house. The unsettling signs of violence hint at something far more sinister. Following the trail, Jong-gu and his team head to a nearby shed. There they uncover the original murder site, a place drenched in blood and horror. The investigation has only just begun, and it already feels like they've stumbled upon something far beyond the ordinary. The place is surrounded by many lit candles, indicating some kind of ritual. A mysterious disease spreads through the village, causing rashes, glowing red eyes, and driving victims to murder their families. One day, Officer Jong-gu hears disturbing gossip from his partner. A Japanese stranger living alone in a secluded mountain house is rumored to host an evil spirit and may be the source of the outbreak. But Jong-gu dismisses it, believing instead that the illness is caused by poisonous wild mushrooms. As deaths rise, Jong-gu is called to a house fire, where he is attacked by the infected but saved by fellow officers. The next day, a woman was found hanging from a tree. Jong-gu began investigating the case, and one of his fellow officers revealed that the woman's husband was the primary suspect. Later, while Jong-gu was at his restaurant, his partner called with startling news. The Japanese man they had discussed earlier had reportedly attempted to molest a woman by the river. Things took an even darker turn. According to his partner, the woman had suddenly become erratic, wandering naked through the streets in the middle of the night and violently attacking anyone she encountered. Her body was also covered in infectious rashes. Jong-gu realized that she was the same person who had attacked him in the burnt house the previous day. Jong-gu suspects that the Japanese man is linked to the spreading illness. At the crime scene of the hanged woman, a strange girl named Moon-young throws stones at him to get his attention and leads him inside the house to the exact spot where the murder took place. She claims that the Japanese man infected the woman, revealing that he is actually a ghost, and warns Jong-gu to stay cautious. The next day, a local hunter tells Jong-gu that he saw the Japanese man almost naked, devouring a deer with glowing red eyes. Jong-gu is deeply unsettled, as he has been dreaming about the stranger in a way that eerily matches the hunter's description. Jong-gu, his partner, and a local hunter head to the Japanese man's house. Suddenly, the weather shifts and it rains under a sunny sky. Feeling uneasy, the hunter tries to leave but is struck by lightning. Shocked, Jong-gu and his partner rush him to the hospital. At the hospital, Jong-gu witnesses a patient turn violent from the infection and notices similar symptoms before the patient dies, bleeding from the mouth. After a long and stressful day, Jong-gu finally returned home to rest. However, his peace was short-lived when his daughter, Hyojin, suddenly fell ill and began screaming in her sleep. She described a terrifying dream about a strange man and broke down in tears. The next morning, Jong-gu's mother, noticing something was wrong with Hyojin, decided to call a shaman. Worried about his daughter's safety, Jong-gu decides to find the truth. He teams up with another police officer and a Japanese-speaking deacon to act as a translator. They search the stranger's house while he is away. Inside, his partner finds photos of infected villagers and their belongings, but keeps it to himself out of fear. Suddenly, the stranger's guard dog attacks Jong-gu and the deacon, but calms down when the stranger returns. The group quickly leaves the house, shaken. While driving back, Jong-gu notices his partner acting strangely and asks what he saw in the house. His partner reveals that the Japanese man is responsible. He explains that the man has photos of the infected people when they were still healthy and returns to take pictures of them after they die. He also informs Jong-gu that the Japanese man had belongings from all the victims. Then, he hands Jong-gu a shoe he found in the house. It's his daughter's. Shocked, Jong-gu rushes home and asks Hyojin if she recently lost a shoe. He asks her if she has met the Japanese man, and she nods. When he asks what happened, she becomes agitated, yells that it's nothing serious, and walks away angrily. Later that night, Jong-gu checks on his daughter and finds strange drawings in her notebook. Worried, he looks at her and notices rashes on her body. Hyojin suddenly wakes up, screaming and cursing at him. She becomes furious and begins showing signs of the infection. Consumed by rage, Jong-gu storms into the stranger's house with the deacon by his side. Upon their arrival, they discover that the photographs and evidence have been burned. Overwhelmed with fury, Jong-gu tears apart the stranger's worship room. When the dog attacks him, he kills it without hesitation. He then turns to the stranger, demanding that he leave the village for good. A day later, they find Hyo-jin covered in blood after stabbing a woman, leaving everyone baffled by the child's violent behavior. Desperate for answers, Jong-goo's mother-in-law seeks help from a shaman named Il-gwang. As Il-gwang performs an intense ritual to exorcise the demon, the stranger conducts a ritual of his own at the same time. When Jong-gu finds his daughter writhing in agony, he panics and abruptly halts the exorcism, opting to take her to the hospital instead. The following day, convinced that the stranger is behind the outbreak and murders, Jong-gu rallies his friends to hunt him down. While observing the Japanese man's home, an infected villager suddenly attacks them. They struggle to subdue it, but it behaves like a zombie, impervious to pain. Just when they think they are all going to die, the villager suddenly stops. One of them spots the Japanese man, and they chase him through the forest. Exhausted but determined, they push on, trying to capture him. When they reach a dead end at a cliff, the man has vanished. Jong-gu collapses to his knees, overwhelmed by hopelessness. Realizing the risk of failing to catch the Japanese man, he breaks down in tears, repeating to himself that he must save his daughter. Below them, the Japanese man clings to the side of the cliff. He falls but tries to remain silent despite being in immense pain. While suffering from his injuries, he saw Moon-myung hiding among the trees, silently watching him. Unable to find him and weighed down by exhaustion and defeat, Jong-gu and his friends drive home in silence. While traveling on a rainy road, an accident occurs. They hit someone with their mini-truck. They are all stunned when they realize who is lying on the wet pavement: the Japanese man. Believing him to be dead, they dispose of his body, unaware that Moon-myung is watching from the hills. When Jong-gu returns to the hospital, he is relieved to find that Hyo-jin's condition has seemingly improved. However, Shaman Il-gwang grows uneasy, suspecting they have killed the wrong person. On his way to Jong-gu's house, the shaman encounters Moon-myung. Suddenly, he begins to bleed from his mouth and vomits. In distress, he calls Jong-gu, warning him that Moon-myung is the real demon. He told him that he had made a mistake. The white woman was the real ghost, killing people and infecting everyone. He also said that the Japanese man was a shaman like him, trying to catch and kill Moon-myung, the cursed spirit. Upon hearing everything, Jong-gu urgently searches for his daughter, only to find her missing from her bed. As he searches the neighborhood, he comes across Moon-myung waiting near his house. Confronting her, he demands she return his daughter and accuses her of being a ghost. Moon-myung tells him that the Japanese man is evil, that he infected Hyo-jin, and that she has set a trap for the demon, one that will fail if Jong-gu returns home. He asks Moon-myung who she really is, and she replies that she is trying to save his daughter. Meanwhile, Hyo-jin returns home behaving strangely. Her mother and grandmother watch helplessly as she enters the house and consumes an unusually large amount of food. In a hidden cave in the forest, the deacon finds the Japanese man weak and accuses him of being the devil. The man responds that he has no answers, as he is merely a stranger rejected by the villagers. Convinced that the deacon has come to kill him, as everyone is accusing him of being the devil, Jong-gu stands torn as Moon-myung insists that Il-gwang is working with the real demon. Confused and desperate, he ultimately decides to return home to save his family. As he moves past Moon-myung, her skin turns ghostly white, and he notices that she is wearing personal belongings from some of the victims. Horror-stricken, he pulls away and rushes toward his home. As he crosses the threshold, the floral trap meant to ensnare the demon withers away. At the cave, the deacon promises the Japanese man that he will leave peacefully and not harm him if he tells the truth. The man laughs mockingly and refuses, saying he won't let the deacon leave. He picks up a camera and begins taking pictures of the deacon. As the flash goes off, the Japanese man suddenly transforms into a demon before the deacon's eyes. When Jong-gu gets home, he is met with a heart-wrenching nightmare. His daughter, Hyo-jin, has brutally slaughtered their entire family. Overcome with grief and disbelief, tears stream down his face as he calls out to her with a trembling voice, desperate for an answer. After the brutal massacre, Il-gwang arrives, his expression cold and unreadable. He steps into the blood-soaked scene and begins taking photographs. As he returns to his car, a box slips from his grasp, spilling photographs of past victims onto the ground, a chilling clue to his connection with the horrors. As Jong-gu takes his last breath in his home, a vision of his beloved daughter appears, calling out to him for the last time.
If you loved this recap, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss out on more free movie recaps. Got a movie in mind that you want us to break down? Drop your suggestions in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you.